Student, last lecture we all had discussed about the functions of the endocrine gland pituitary. So we all have seen that almost all the major function of our body, our growth, our reproduction, development, everything is under the control of the pituitary gland. But sometimes, now see, till when the gland is functioning well, everything is well and good in your body. But if sometime it happens that the gland have certain problem and it do not produce the hormone which is required in an appropriate amount. I told you earlier also that hormones, they just function in the trace amount. Trace amount means their concentration in the blood in the nanogram and the picogram is even sufficient for their appropriate functioning. So a little bit disturbance happens in the concentration, it creates a disorder. So there are a number of disorder which are related to the pituitary gland, but here in this particular lecture we will be talking about the disorder of the pituitary gland which are related to the growth hormone. Now, see, we all have seen that the pituitary gland is master over many glands. It controls almost all the glands. It secretes many hormones, and all these hormones have the target of various other glands. So that's why the hormone which secretes from one gland and acts on the another gland is known as the tropic hormone. So, how many tropic hormones are secreted by the pituitary gland? The first we have discussed about the antidiuretic hormone, oxytocin hormone, growth hormone. Then we had already discussed about the ACTH, adenocorticotropic hormone. Then thyroid stimulating hormone, this follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, then prolactin hormone. All this we had already discussed. Now, all these hormone have effect on their particular gland. So, imagine if the particular hormone will not reach to that particular gland or overstimulate the gland, that gland will cause a lot of disturbance, okay, and that will create a disorder. Now see, if you will observe, just a minute, if you will see, the target of the growth hormone is the bones and soft tissue, okay. Not only this, I had already discussed in the previous lecture that the growth hormone function directly as well as indirectly. In the previous lecture we had already discussion when we were talking about the functions of the pituitary gland, that directly growth hormone stimulate bones and soft tissue for their growth, but indirectly also it activates or it gives signal to the liver to produce insulin like growth factor, and that stimulates some other organ to do the function. So if this growth hormone will produce in excess or in the lesser quantity, both the way it is really a big problem. The first disorder we are going to discuss is the gigantism. Now everyone like the tall height, but the tall is not always smart and handsome. Sometimes the tallness is also a big problem. Now see, up to 6 feet height, everyone desires that my height should be 6.5, 6.10, but the more than that height is a problem that is called as a gigantism. Now why this gigantism happens? It happens due to the hyperactivity of the pituitary gland, especially overgrowth of excess secretion of the growth hormone, and these are the way condition in which the height increase 1 to 2 feet, so the body will become unusually tall, maybe 7 feet, 8 feet. Now, only tallness is not the issue with the gigantism. The issue is that they will be having many type of the you can say the inappropriate structure. I have kept one for comparison, one normal and a gigantic patient. So you can see that it's looking too tall, but apart from that, their ear pinna will become thick as well as enlarged. Okay, note down all the symptoms or all the disappropriate structure you will observe into the gigantic person. Note it down, so that will be better for you. So first thing, their body will become unusually tall. Approximate height will be 7 to 8 feet. Now their ear pinna will become very much thick and enlarged. Not only this, now see, height has increased and trunk has also increased, so their visceral organ will also be proportionally large. Everything is large, so what is going to be happen? Body metabolic rate will also increase, right? Because the body has already increased, so metabolic rate will also increase. When the metabolic rate will increase, the gland which controls the metabolic rate will also get disturbance. So which gland controls the metabolic activity of the body? The gland which we all are going to discuss in detail in the next is the thyroid gland. So thyroid gland has to do lots of metabolic activity. So in this case, the thyroid gland will also become enlarged because it has to produce more and more hormone. I told you, if any disturbance in the pituitary gland, so definitely even a single hormone, it will have lots many effects on some other glands as well, because the glands are under the control of the pituitary. So this particular thing will happen, excessive growth will happen in the case of the children. Okay, in the case of the children, if the growth hormone is excessive, so that particular time gigantism will happen. It is not like that other stage of the life you are getting and you will start getting that time you will be having some other issues that we all are going to discuss next. So what will happen next? Their thyroid gland will become enlarged because of the more production of the thyroid hormone. Not only this, thyroid gland will also become overactive. Understood? Adrenal cortex also become hyperactive because lots many metabolic activity is happening, lot many metabolic waste will also be produced, so that also has to be metabolized, and the metabolism of nitrogenous waste is usually taken care by the adrenal gland, which we all are going to discuss or matlab in further lectures we all are going to discuss. So this gland will also become hyperactive. Now another thing will happen is the gonads. It will also affect on the gonads, or you can say the reproductive organ. Now reproductive organ will be hyperactive at the initial stage. Okay, means at the time of the adolescence and all, they may get the earlier puberty, but after a time that will lead to the atrophy. I had already discussed the meaning of the atrophy. Atrophy means the gland or the tissue start disgenerating, means slowly, as we had already discussed about the thymus, that is a normal process that after the adult stage thymus atrophy starts and it reduces in its size. So some part, some tissue of that particular gland start degenerating and makes it uh, slower active. Okay, so activity decrease because of the atrophy, so automatically reproductive stage will also affect. Definitely it is going to affect their fertility. Now apart from that, if body is increase in size, so more demand of the glucose will be there, but their glucose will not metabolize properly because the insulin will be produced for the normal rate. So whatever glucose is there, that is going to be utilized as a fuel at the faster rate, so they will feel hyperglycemic. But hypoglycemia and another situation that is known as the glucosuria. Glucosuria will is a condition in which the excessive glucose is found into the urine. So these two condition will also occur in this particular situation, And all this is happening, so automatically when we have the hypoglycemia, so that time what we feel the drowsiness, but we have the hypoglycemia only when we starve, right? But these people, they will have the this condition very normal, so always they will look like drowsy, they will have the lethargy, so uh, they will not feel very active, because see, the body itself have lots of demand for their growth, and their metabolic activity is also very much high, so whatever they are taking as a food, so all this their body is only consuming, so how will they get the energy to do the other activities? So they will be little bit lethargic people, and not only that, it is, they will have the disturbed type of vision, and their voice will be very much deep. So these are the main characteristic of the gigantism. Once again, we will revise, but we will revise very fast. You should note it down and remember also. First condition, we will see their body will be unusually tall. Their ear pinna will become thick and enlarged. Then vision will be disturbed. Voice will very much deep. Then visceral organ will be proportionally large, metabolic rate will be increased beyond the normal level, and because of that they will be having the enlarged thyroid gland and overactive thyroid gland. Not only that, adrenal cortex will also become very hyperactive. In case of gonads or reproductive organ, they will be hyperactive at the first, but thereafter it may lead to the atrophy, so that means it is going to affect the fertility as well. Another problem related to metabolism will be hyperglycemia and this glucosuria. Now, see, due to atrophy of the your reproductive organs, sometime it happens that the male becomes infertile, even female also becomes sterile, and in case of the female, the gigantism will cause the poor formation of the mammary gland, so their mammary gland will not develop properly, and they will not be that fertile. So this is all about the gigantism. The next disorder, which is related to the pituitary gland, is acromegaly. Now, when we talk about the acromegaly, so this is also caused because of the overactivity of the pituitary gland, growth hormone. But usually, acromegaly happens in the case of the adults. Okay, means the adult, they cannot have their, see, for the body's normal growth, the bone hypos. Just a minute, let me draw here. Why is this not working properly? Student, we have certain cartilaginous structure on our bone, okay, and that is known as the epiphysis. What it is known as? Epiphysis. It is the almost all, this cartilaginous cap is present overall the bone, but this epiphysis, it is receiving the growth hormone. We are telling now that the growth hormone, it is functioning, it is working on the bone. So on the bone, we have a certain cartilaginous structure which is called as the epiphysis, which is giving signal to the bone to grow. But this growth, this epiphysis start atrophies at what time? When the sex hormones are produced. Okay, so this steroid hormone, they start doing the atrophy of the bone. That's why we say that after 18 our height do not increase, so the bone will not enlarge. Okay, so bone will not enlarge, so what will happen at that time? Growth hormone is produced, excessively, and this growth hormone is constantly giving signal. Now epiphysis is not there, so it is giving constantly signal to the bones. So there will be changes into the bone, there will be changes in some other form. So that changes usually acromegaly. It is the condition which happens when there is a hypersecretion of the growth hormone into the adult age. You will observe the gigantism when the growth hormone was overactive into the person, those who all were young age, or their epiphysis is not being degenerated or atrophied. So let us see what will happen at the case of the acromegaly. I hope you are clear with the gigantism and acromegaly differences, but see, more or less situation will be same, but only there will be little bit changes. In the case of the acromegaly, there will be growth and swelling. Okay, because see, as such, growth cannot be observed in case of the tallness. So here swelling will happen. Now, where it will happen? Usually, you will observe swelling of the hand and the feet. Okay, usually you will observe the swelling on the hand and feet. Not only that, you will also observe their jaws will also become a little bit. Here you can see their jaws will become enlarged. So because of that, it will be protruding. Okay, and you will observe their nasal bone will also increase, and their teeth will space out. Iska muh band hai, that's why you cannot see. But see, you imagine the condition that the person's jaw is enlarged into the size, but teeth will not enlarge in that way. Understood? Because teeth is having some different origin and on different way it is working. So teeth will automatically space out in such people. Overgrowth of bones will happen, and overgrowth of cartilage will also happen. So this overgrowth will start producing condition of arthritis. Not only that, because of this over enlargement of the bone, they will be getting the joint aches. Diameter of their chest will also increase. Now where it is going to increase? It is going to increase in the length, as you can see here, the length. Okay, so anteriorly as well as posteriorly, the length of the chest is going to be increased into the diameter. Then see, subcutaneous tissue will also affected. Now which are the subcutaneous tissue? Subcutaneous layer or subcutaneous tissue are the deepest layer of the skin. So where it is going to be affected? On the hands, feet, scalp. That means your head skin, except your face, is called as a scalp. Then your lips, nose, skin, tongue, everything will increase in its thickness. Hyperglycemia and glucosuria will develop. I had earlier discussed that this condition happens because the increased metabolic rate, basal metabolic rate is going to increase. So automatically, body will require the high glucose demand. So the hyperglycemia will happen, but if the person is going to take the extra glucose, that is not going to be digested because of the limitation of the glucose managing hormones, and it is going to cause the condition of the glucosuria. Not only that, the person will have the excessive sweating, their visceral organ concerned with the metabolism will enlarge. Not all the visceral organ will enlarge. In the earlier case, we all have seen that their visceral organ were disappropriate and disproportionate and all enlarged inside. But in this case, the visceral organ which are related to the metabolic activity, all will enlarge in size. Now, metabolic activity, if disturbs, we had discussed in the earlier case, it affects the thyroid gland because the metabolism is under the control of the thyroid gland. Excessive waste is going to be produced, so adrenal cortex will also become hyperactive. So here, in this case, thyroid gland and adrenal cortex will become hyperactive. Now, here in this case also, gonads will become overactive at the first, and then there may be an atrophy. sometimes a male will become sterile and female will not be sterile, but they will have irregular menstrual cycle. So it is also, you can say, indirect way of the sterility in the case of the female. Not the sterility, infertility problem will occur in the case of the female. See, they're sterile and infertile. These are very closely related terms, but they are, both are not same. Sterile means the person cannot, means absolutely not have any type of the reproductive activity. Okay, that means their sex hormone not at all produced. But infertility means the person can have the sex hormone, but they may not be able to have the fertile gamete. So do not mix two terms. These two terms are closely related but not the same. Is that clear? Because sterile people are infertile, but not all infertile people are sterile. Is that clear? So let us revise the symptoms which we will observe in the case of the acromegaly. First, we will be observing the swelling of the hand and feet. And next condition, we will have seen that they have the protruding jaws. Nasal bone is going to enlarge. Jaw size will increase. So what will happen? That teeth will space out. They have the overgrowth of the bones and cartilage, and this is going to lead to the arthritis and the joint pain. Diameter of the chest is going to increase. Now which direction? Anterior, posteriorly, their diameter of chest is going to increase. Subcutaneous tissue of hands, feet, scalp, lips, nose, skin and tongue is going to increase, and it is going to cause the thickness of that particular area's tissue. Hyperglycemia will happen. Also glycosuria will be developed. Basal metabolic rate is going to increase. So automatically thyroid and adrenal cortex become hyperactive. They will have the sweating, excessive sweating will observe. Now, in this case also, you will be observed the visceral organ concerned with the metabolism will enlarge in size. Gonads will become overactive at the first, and then there may be atrophy. Then males become sometimes sterile, and females undergo irregular menstrual cycle. So this is all about the acromegaly. Now, hypersecretion causes lots many problems, but student, hyposecretion is also equally dangerous. Hyposecretion will cause the another condition that calls as the Dwarfism. So remember hypoactivity of the pituitary gland. Hypoactivity, I did not label any hormone here, but it is the growth hormone only. But if hypoactivity pituitary gland is poorly developed and all the hormone of the pituitary gland is producing in less quantity than required, so all the problem will be the dwarfism. Everything will be small, small in their body. Most people with dwarfism, they have disorder that causes the disproportionately short statues. The person will have an average size of trunk, but now you can see trunk is normal, normal human, but their hands and legs, or you can say simply their limbs, will be short. Now, in this case, trunk will be average size, normal human jitna. In majority of the people, not in all the case, you will find that the some dwarf people are very dwarf. So definitely they will have the trunk size of a baby in adult age as well. But in normal, most majority of the case, you will observe that they have the average trunk size. Then they have the short arm and legs with particularly short upper arm and upper legs. Short fingers will be there, often with the wide gap between the middle and ring finger, you will observe. Then limited mobility at the elbow, they cannot move the elbow very much. disproportionately large head. Now see, their head will be of the normal or the average human size, but their body limbs are very small, so that's why their head will look very disproportionate and very large, and they will have the prominent forehead. They may have the flattened and the bridge nose. Progressive development of the board legs will happen. Progressive development of the swayed lower back. Swayed lower back means what will happen? Their back will be forward like this. Okay, if it is the body, so this will happen. Their back will look like this. That is called as a swayed lower back. And adult height will be only 3 to 4 feet. What is the normal human height? 5 to 6 feet. But in this case, their adult age height will be 3 to 4 feet. Now, their sex organ and secondary sexual character may not develop. That's why they look like childish. The appearance of affected male is similar to that of females. Obesity is common symptom in males and the females as well, because see, everything is growing in the size but their height is not increasing, so they become very much obese. So this is all about the pituitary gland. So we have discussed about the general organization of the pituitary gland. Thereafter, just a minute. We have just discussed about the general organization of the pituitary gland. In that, we all had already discussed that it is present beneath the hypothalamus, and it is situated into the hypophyseal fossa into the sella turcica of the sphenoid bone. Thereafter, we had discussed about the histology. We all have seen that the adenohypophysis, it is the larger portion of the pituitary gland, which is originated or developed from the reticulus pouch of the your this mouth region. Epidermal gland, we all have seen that origin is very different from the adenohypophysis and the neurohypophysis. And thereafter, we had discussed about the cells of the pituitary gland and what are the hormones are produced by it. So these are the all hormone in general. Very fast, we will just revise about all the hormones. First hormone, antidiuretic hormone, it functions on the kidney. Thereafter, we have discussed about the next hormone is the oxytocin hormone. It is you can say feminine hormone, which helps into the dilation of the uterus at the time of the parturition, and it also affects the mammary glands. Thereafter, we have discussed growth hormone in detail just now. Then and adenocorticotropic hormone that functions on the adrenal gland. And thereafter, we had discussed next hormone was the TSS, thyroid stimulating hormone, which stimulates the thyroid gland to produce the thyroid hormone. Thereafter, we have discussed about the FSS and LH, that is the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone, which acts on the gonads and helps in production of the gametes. And prolactin hormone, it is produced after the parturition, and it acts on the mammary gland to produce the milk after getting stimulation of the baby sucking. Thereafter, we have discussed about vasopressin as well. That is already discussed. Then we have discussed three disorder which are related to the pituitary. Now next we will be talking about the thyroid gland. Any doubt in pituitary gland, please ask me right now. Yes, any doubt in pituitary gland?
No, ma'am.
So we can stop right now. Just a